The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Coming up tonight, a major shakeup for the taxi and livery drivers as the Ministry of Transport announces plans to recall 800 plates. How do industry officials feel about this? Also, many of you polled say we don't need any additional constituencies. We discuss it tonight as we also consider the significant growth of constituencies like Golden Isles and a new history book written by Jeremy Sweeting. It details the origin of the Bahamian Parliament and political democracy in the Bahamas. It's all straight ahead for you this evening. This is Beyond the Headlines. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Well, it's a major shake-up for the country's taxi and livery systems. The Ministry of Energy and Transport has uncovered almost 800 inactive taxi driver's plates. According to the ministry's notice, the plates identified as inactive that have been not brought up to date and are set to be recalled effective November 30th. That's the end of this month. Minister of Energy and Transport JoBeth Colby-Davis says the review aims to ensure fairness and transparency in the allocation of taxi and livery licenses.
Based on that audit, the notice announced the plates that are listed as inactive for those persons who are holders of that plate to come in, report to road traffic, and either bring their franchise plate up to date, or then there would be consideration to recall. So there's an audit ongoing, and that's a part of the audit to notify persons that based on our audit, we notice the plates are inactive. I announced this in my budget. Those plates being inactive is government revenue, and so we are trying to address it, and it hasn't been done for a number of years. We still have a number of persons that are requesting or applying for plates, and so from the audit, we begin to speak more with road traffic team, the board, to get their advice, and also speak with the cabinet and determine what the next steps would be. But cleaning up the inactive plates in the system helps us to be able to address some of the where we see areas of a potential shortfall in our finance revenue intake at road traffic. It's sometimes skewed because they're calculated based on what they see listed as plates and issuance, but many of them are actually inactive. So it's not that we're not collecting the revenue, it's just that the plates aren't actually being utilized and haven't been so for some time.
Now, with just weeks left before the recall takes effect, the ministry is calling the necessary cleanup and calling this a necessary cleanup, and also something that will modernize the transportation industry as well as make way for new economic opportunities. And so this evening, we will speak to that with one of the transportation unions here in the nation. We also reached out to the taxi union president in Grand Bahama, who says they are aware of this. They await to speak with the minister to know more, but said basically the same thing you heard us say, that many people are queued up hoping to get into the transportation industry, but having those outstanding plates that aren't being used, that aren't showing up and have been dormant for years, really is hampering and preventing a number of people from being empowered. And so we're going to speak with Tori Austin this evening. Tori is president of the Luxury Drivers Livery Union. It's good to have you here. Good evening to you. How will this, removing and recalling beginning the end of this month, immediately modernize and help modernize this industry?
Something that is long overdue, I must say. Good evening again. I applaud the ministry for taking the necessary steps to cleaning up this industry. For too long, before time, there were many of our colleagues renting plates and leasing plates from others, and now that they have been given plates, those plates have probably been returned back to their owners, and the owners are really not in this industry anymore. They either passed away and their family owns it, or some other person has been operating with it. So it's about that time that the ministry has come in and cleaned it up, because there are a lot of young entrepreneurs that want to become drivers and enter our industry, either as taxi driver or livery drivers, and they can't because they're applying for plates and trying to get a business, but unfortunately unable to.
Well, how does this work? Do you then transfer to a family member if you no longer want to use it? Is that how it works?
That seems to how it's been working.
For decades, yes.
For decades. It's been that way for decades where, and in fact, someone just told me, I was talking to somebody just the other day, a particular plate number, that person has been deceased for a few years. So, and you remember that person getting that plate about 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago or more. But, family members own it, and I know the ministry was somewhere allowing families to keep certain plates, but a lot of them, like she said, are inactive. And so it's great that the audit was done so we can find out what's going on with these plates. To say you have close to 700 plates that have been issued, that are out, and almost close to 200 livery plates are inactive. It's kind of crazy. What's going on with them? Why are they sitting there? Mm-hmm. Can others use them and actually own the plates rather than we have to get away from this leasing plates?
Yeah. That's still a thing, even though, remember, maybe a year or so ago when there was some issuing of new plates, people are still leasing plates?
Well, it is tremendous. Since the government came in and issued a lot of plates over the last 4 years, that has somewhat declined. And so that's why you see these plates now being inactive, because now that these plates have been returned back to the rightful owners, now they can't really lease them out because everybody's now getting their own plates. And so that's the whole thing now. Now it's not as prevalent as it was years ago. It's been cleaned up, which is kudos to the government for cleaning this up and doing now a transparent audit. So, because we've had meetings with them, but this is one of the topics that we actually talked about with the government.
So you all brought this up, and I get this as well from the Grand Bahama Union as well, that they are not surprised. In fact, they've been following it, and there have been meetings.
Yes, and the minister's been very transparent with that. Letting us see where are these plates. As a union president, you're telling me I have 700 plates out there, but I only see 200 or 300 members. I want to know my members. I want to know where the plates are, who's owning them. I want to reach out to them and see how we can, work together as one.
Is the transportation industry still a very lucrative, attractive one for people to want to get into? I mean, is it necessary when you recall these 800 to go and then reissue them?
Yes, in my opinion, I think it is. There's a need. There's a need for transportation in this country. Like I always say to you, and we've always tried to work ways to improve it. I look at it as a big pie. A little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. You may not make what you used to make years ago when there were only 200 livery cars, but you could take some of them and take care of your families and assist with paying your bills, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what's important. And I think that's the ministry's goal is to give a little something, just give you something, but you could take home to your family rather than a whole lot of nothing. You know what I mean? So it might not be as lucrative as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it's our industry. If you look at the record numbers of people coming into this country, I mean, there is a need. Now, there's a lot of other things that goes into place about how the transportation sector, and we have to find out ways to keep improving it. But definitely these places will definitely help some families and helping Bahamians, and that's his key.
Well, I wanted to go there with you. What other conversations are being done? The minister mentioned modernize. You also said, listen, this will help modernize the industry. What needs to happen in order to bring this industry that's lagging significantly in several areas in terms of whether it's quality of ride, of car, of the fact that in the US you can go to an app and order and it's on time and it's tracked. You can track from the moment you get into that vehicle all the way to when you say thank you and
Exactly.
pay. What is being discussed to move the transportation industry along and in a good direction? I'm not saying to mimic that,
Right.
but just in a direction that is just a better quality of service to all of us.
Well, I want to say this to you, Shanique. I can only speak on livery. I'm not sure what the taxi president and his discussions with the ministry and how they're wanting to improve. But as far as we are concerned, like I would have mentioned to you before in other discussions, we are talking with global partners all over the world. We are traveling to different conferences and discussing how ways that we can improve our sector. In fact, I had a meeting just yesterday, this is the world of apps now, and booking in advance and et cetera, et cetera. When you walk out of your airport or when you're at your hotel, you can how ways it work. Gone are the days, we have to advance with time. You know what I mean? We have to travel the world and see how people are doing it all over the world. And we have to now step up to the plate. And that's where the delivery is trying to go to, is finding out ways, seeing ways, talking with global partners, coming up with ideas, getting the brilliant heads to the table, and hopefully coming up with a good system to improve our sector.
Yes. Now, what would you say is that interest in terms of people who are waiting for this to happen? Because I'll tell you, when I saw this earlier, I really thought that this would have been something that kind of vexed you all. I mean, the plates have been a thing, something that brought a lot of tension in the industry from taxi drivers, as well as more taxi drivers, but certainly the entire industry.
Yes.
What now is the anticipation of this move or behind this move?
There's still a lot of people trying to get plates. There's a number of people that I know that are in our union that are still trying to get plates, and we've been trying to assist them. In fact, over the last month, I've just personally walked about 20 people in to just fill out applications and try to get plates. So, we're trying to get plates and trying to get them. The people want to take care of their families, and this is a great job, and it's taken care of me for the last 5 years, and I it's done me well.
You've only been in the industry for 5 years?
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's doing well. It helps me. It takes care of me and takes care of me and my kids. It puts a plate on the table. But we just have to continue talking and creating and not only talking, putting action in place to improve our industry. Mm-hmm. Like I said to you before, the main reason why I became the president is because I wanted to help move the industry further. And I think with my leadership and the team that I have, the members are eager. They're eager for change. They're eager like I had a meeting last week. And I said, if we don't progress, if we don't see a change, we can't continue doing the same thing we were doing 20 years ago. No. We can't do the same thing we were doing 10 years ago. We need to improve. And so we had a great meeting last week to report some great ideas, and they were eager for change. And so hopefully very soon you'll see some of those changes as we present it to the government and to the ministry of how we're going to conduct business here in the Bahamas.
Now, some of these ideas, especially the ideas that you have, are they being shared nationwide? From Grand Bahama, will soon experience more of a boom to its economy, and also other areas, Eleuthera and other islands.
Oh yeah, the idea that we have, like I say, it's not only it's going to be on every island where there's a need. See, we go where there's a need, like I said, we want to go to the locals as well. Wherever people want a black car service, whether it's a limousine, whether it's a nice SUV, a town car, et cetera, there's an improved way how you will be able to conduct getting us our business, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, we're definitely looking at Grand Bahama, the Abacos, someone just talked to me today. They wanted to take an SUV down in Eleuthera, so Exuma, of course. Anyway, especially where the tourist market is, it seems to be a big thing. So, yeah, we're looking at ways to getting all of those spots.
I thank you very much, Tori Austin, President of the Livery Drivers Association. Thank you very much for speaking with me here on Beyond the Headlines. Once again, you heard that they welcome the shakeup. They welcome the 800 plate recall, and this is the livery and taxi unions. Very, in fact, anticipated because it helps other people move forward and get involved in this industry. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on Beyond the Headlines. Thank you. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, your thoughts on not adding any more constituencies, even when you have constituencies with around 10,000 registered voters. We'll talk about that and more after the break.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is now City of Hope, creating one of the leading cancer care and research networks from coast to coast, providing more of what you need. More locations means more care closer to home. More specialists means more expertise. More research means more breakthroughs. More advancements means more treatment options. And more options means more hope. Call now to get more of the care you need.
As a resident of Golden Isles for the past 22 years, I've lived there, served as the chairman for the constituency for the past 11 years. I know the needs, I know the infrastructure needs, I know the needs that the people in Golden Isles need. I drive through there every day. Some of the needs is the healthcare system, the environment. We're looking at safety in terms of the police presence being in the constituency on a daily basis. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to get Golden Isles up and running and making sure that it's be the best constituency in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. My name is Brian Berkeley Brown from the great constituency of Golden Isles. I'm asking that you lend me a vote so I could work for you.
Ever feel like you're missing your own life because you're constantly running off to the bathroom? Do bladder leaks or pelvic discomfort have you up at night and affect your confidence in everyday life? Those days are over. At Frequency Vitality Center, we offer a solution. Completely painless, fully clothed with no downtime. Perfect for men and women of any age, we help strengthen the pelvic floor muscles while you sit comfortably, improving bladder control, decreasing night waking, and much more. Strengthen your foundation and restore your confidence.
Comfort Suites Paradise Island is the best-kept secret in the Bahamas. Located directly next door to the Atlantis Resort, you'll receive all the privileges of an Atlantis guest with all the benefits of a Comfort Suite stay. Enjoy everything Atlantis has to offer, including Aquaventure Water Park, plus all the amenities of Comfort Suites. Free Wi-Fi, free breakfast daily, and kids stay, play, and eat free. Visit ComfortSuitesPI.com.
Running out of space? We've got room for that. Welcome to Skyline Storage, your trusted self-storage solution. Skyline Storage offers units from 5x10 to 10x30, climate-controlled or standard dry. Perfect for home or business. Located in Westfield Commerce Park, Western New Providence. Your belongings stay safe with gated access and 24/7 surveillance starting at $175 a month. Reserve, pay, and move in online. No phone calls, no paperwork. Visit SkylineStorage.com. Skyline Storage. Storage made simple.
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. 1 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Well, as the Bahamas gears up for a by-election and with preparations already underway for the 2026 general election, political discussions are heating up. Among the key issues, the proposed boundary cuts in Golden Isles and Killarney, sparking renewed debate about fairness and representation, and this one, cost. The Bahamas Constitution Party is calling for an end to constituency additions. Its deputy servant leader, Dwayne Hiley, I think I pronounced that correct, says creating more seats would place an added financial burden on Bahamians at a time, he urges, when there are still pressing questions about transparency and accountability among elected officials.
We are expanding the cost to the Bahamian people. We're estimating that during a 5-year term, one member of parliament would cost the Bahamian people $10 million. If we add 3 seats, that's $30 million that is added. And what is the Bahamian people getting back in return for it. So we don't want to expand the government without getting results. This is the problem with big government. And on a final note, in 2017, we established a Freedom of Information Act. We established an Integrity Act for the Bahamas. We need the Bahamian people to know that neither of these two acts are functional. We have a commissioner of information, but we are not getting information. We have a commissioner of integrity, but we're not getting any integrity. We've had 4 years of deals being cut and the Bahamian people not knowing the details of those deals. The Bahamian people should not vote for any political party that is not going to fully implement the Freedom of Information Act and the Integrity Act, as it is in Jamaica, as it is in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and results are being yielded. Persons in high position are being pulled out of position for unscrupulous behavior, and this needs to be enforced in the Bahamas going forward.
The seat that was made vacant by the resignation of Darren Pickstock, we believe should be appointed based on Article 39(4) of the Constitution. We believe this people's senator has to reflect the balance of independence within the country in the political arena. And this government, this Davis administration, has not appointed those 3 senators based on Article 39(4). And so our appeal to both the Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister is to appoint a senator or replace that seat with 2 recommendations that we have put forward.
Well, of course, the BCPOU, that was Ali McIntosh, BCPOU servant leader, and her deputy. Listen, let's just jump right in. There's a lot to dissect about that and what was said. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines, BTH contributors, Richard Johnson, Ellington Ferguson, and Glenroy Pratt. Good evening to each of you. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Good evening, Bahamas. Good evening, Shanique. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
Well, it's good to be here, Shanique. I've been a little while, but I'm good to be here.
Good to have you here. Glenroy, can you hear me? Glenroy, Glenroy, I hope your internet is strong and that you can participate in real time. Welcome to.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I think there's a delay here.
Just a slight delay, Glenroy. Yes, just good evening, Glenroy. Good evening to you. Listen, you all heard the BCP. They said, listen, no more constituencies, and also the vacancy in the Senate, fill that with someone they recommend. Your thoughts about, let's just deal with the constituency, for example, and just not even the Killarney. We mentioned 2, but let's just talk about Golden Isles. Golden Isles has registered voters that total 8,000. The constituency, the population size is obviously bigger than that. Your thoughts about the BCP saying, listen, regardless of how much an area grows and evolves and develops and the amount of residents in a particular area or constituency, leave the number, which is now 39, as is, because to expand it or to cut the boundary to make it more and more manageable for members of parliament, for example, is just too much.
I think, Shanique, when you consider that, you're either saying get rid of the Boundaries Commission, because if we have certain criteria that makes up a constituency and this constituency has ballooned to exaggerated amounts between both Killarney and the Golden Isles constituency, what do you do with when the amount gets so much? Do you not add any new constituency? Do you take some of the people from there and put them in Yamacore? Do you put some of those constituents in Michael? You can't do that. So the only way you can do it is to share that off and create another constituency. It is something that happens as the country grows, as the population expands. This is what is going to happen. We got to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. We have many other issues that the country has to deal with, has to face. We have to be able to do all of that while we continue to deal with our boundaries commissions when we come to general elections.
Go ahead, Glenroy.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, and obviously we have a challenge where there are some quarters our population seems to be shifting, and we have to meet the needs of our population change. And if, just the fact that we wait till these times, it's just unfortunate because obviously it isn't as if this problem wasn't known prior to an upcoming election, which is currently going on. This should have been dealt with, in my view, far earlier, because then it gives the perception, if they want to now make any changes, there is that perception of gerrymandering and all this other stuff. And so we just need to be ahead of the game and make sure that we do things in a timely fashion.
Richard, your thoughts?
I mean, I think the comments by the BCP, I think is hogwash, as far as I'm concerned. It's rhetoric and it's just baseless. Because again, the country is evolving and we are growing. You have right now in Golden Isle, Shanique, where we have, like you say, you only could record 8,000 registered voters, but that doesn't mean another 15 is there or whatever. So again,
Absolutely.
it's growing, it's development. You even look at the Parliament of the Bahamas. Again, it's rat infested. When we discuss now building a new parliament, we have a problem with that too. So again, we are developing and we are moving.
Absolutely.
You look at when we discuss parliamentarians getting a pay increase. Oh, don't talk about that because that ain't relevant right now. But again, it was not done from the late 80s or 70s. So again, we need to develop, we need to move forward. The country is growing. And so I can't see how you can say not add more seats. When you have a population of some 8,000, 10,000 in one constituency, that's ludicrous.
Minimum.
So I don't know if she's going to.
Well, let's just flesh that out a little bit more to see how maybe unrealistic and unreasonable an idea it is. We expect in the Bahamas, and it's an expectation I hope that we grow out of as we continue to mature. I mean, we are 52 already.
Right.
You expect a member of parliament to walk door to door and say hello to you. And this is why, now, if we were in the United States, I could buy that argument, because in the United States, they have millions of people in an area. You don't see your congressman on each door. You don't see your senator on each door. You don't see your governor of whichever state on each door, your mayor, that kind of thing. No. Yeah, they make their stops and they have big meetings. What I'm saying is their political model is so different that they can kind of have an 8,000, 15,000 member population constituency, and that'd be okay because the people ain't looking to see them.
Right.
But in the Bahamas, we are still very much looking to say, oh, I saw him, I saw her, and they were here, and yes, they sat down and ate some corned beef and rice with me, or whatever. It's unrealistic.
And if they don't come.
And if they don't show up, when we start to make these demands and suggestions, then perhaps what we must also do is move away from. Listen, I just want to know. You keeping the street lights on. Correct. And bright, not these little dim lights that are on.
Road paved,
bright.
parks
the road
clean
paved,
and maintained.
The sidewalks done.
Absolutely.
Jump in, Glenroy. I see you want to jump in.
No. I agree. I mean, obviously we need to. I mean, there's only so much one MP can do if he has to touch so many different people, right? The fact is that we have to segment it in a way that it makes sense. Because what that means also is that if you do have a large number of individuals in one constituency over another, that means there's a good portion of people that are going to be underserved.
Absolutely.
And so with that said, that creates a problem.
Absolutely. Ellington?
Yes, and so when you look at these constituencies, you look at Kalani from right here, West Bay Street, Cable Beach area, all the way out to our South Ocean.
Right.
You look at Golden Isles, from Golden Isles Road all the way out to Adelaide.
Yes.
I mean, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. And people are spread out there, and you have different demographics, and for members of parliament to be able to touch all of those people, no, it's a challenge.
But you look at Michael.
Michael is another challenge
that's
the government has.
Right.
They want to. They have been looking at it. I'm aware of. But to break it up is a challenge again. It's already few voters there. But the difficulty in the member of parliament. See now, and you talk about, Richard mentioned raising the pay of parliamentarians. So we give parliamentarians so much money for travel and stipend and stuff like that. Are we going to look at giving the member of parliament for Michael additional monies to be able to serve those constituencies? Michael, you have to take a plane trip to one each time and come back to New Providence. Okay, so these are the kind of challenges we have, and we have to mitigate them. So
then a vote between the others, like it's a lot to demand on our.
And so we have to grow, we have to develop, and we're going to have to do some things as we grow. That's going to cost us some more money. We're just going to have to manage the monies and the treasury of the Bahamas, the affairs of state.
That recommendation can fly. I see why some people in the wilderness all this time, because obviously you will stay in the wilderness when you come talking that nonsense.
But what about the suggestion of as Ms. McIntosh said, listen, hold up, we have a suggestion for who should sit in the Senate in the vacancy, and they have sent, in fact, 2 suggestions to the leader of the opposition as well as the Prime Minister. Your thoughts about what she's recommending?
You bring me the show to talk sense tonight, because I ain't coming to talk nonsense. Because they can't make no recommendation to put nobody in no seat. I come here to talk serious business now. Not this nonsense.
I'm going a different direction from Richard. With us, Ali McIntosh and her party asked, I also have 3 persons that I want to recommend for those seats. I'll leave it right there.
Glenroy, you want to chime in before I move forward?
No, I mean, listen.
Do you have anybody to recommend?
Jesus, put Jesus there.
In this country is that people believe that Bahamians don't have a voice. If you are a voting populace, you have a voice and you have a right to speak and say whatever needs to be said because you are part of the electoral process. Whatever decisions any government makes impacts you. And so you must involve yourself in the political process.
Let's move on. Golden Isles residents have said widely they want several things, not necessarily, little money roll up on the T-shirt and all that bunch of stuff. What they want is good representation. They want somebody who is capable. They say they want somebody who can get the job done. The roads, the flooding. They want the sidewalks done, the lighting, the street lights. These are the things that are important to them widely, is what they said. Your thoughts on what they said, and when we look at the candidates and how they're showing up, we have 4 candidates there vying for the vote, the popular vote, the 50 point plus 1% of it. Or certainly the majority of votes come the 24th. Your thoughts about what the residents want, and then looking at these candidates as they are showing up, who is showing up?
Well, Shanique, you have Golden Isles again is a diverse community, and you have there are some pockets of community where people are interested in jobs, but for the most part, there's a big chunk of that community. They just want to make sure that their communities are well taken care of. The parks are well maintained, well kept. The street lights are always on and well lit areas. The roads are properly paved, and there have been a lot of new areas as that constituency continue to develop. And these are the things that concerns people, and we hear it. The people that are talking, the constituents, when they did the survey there, one of the dailies, they're saying they want somebody that can get these things done. Right now, this race is heating up in Golden Isles, and it's between these members of these potential candidates that can make things happen. We've seen Brian on his commercial. We've seen Mr. Pickstock on the ground, and he's getting this done. And I'm not sure how he's getting it, where he's getting it from, but making things happen. And this is what the Golden Isles people is wanting. Somebody, and I said this about
there are other candidates. You didn't mention the other ones.
A member of parliament that can make things happen. The other one is the other 2, the COI and the independent. Those are not persons, based on what we hear Golden Isles people are asking for. They are not persons that can break or cause these things to happen. Okay, those persons will have to go to parliament, get their paycheck, and probably rile the government. Hopefully the government give them a listening ear. Golden Isles people need somebody, a hands-on, hard-working person that knows how to make these things happen.
Glenn, what are your thoughts about what Ellington is saying, that they need somebody who can make things happen and make them happen now?
Well, I'd say I'm one of them, but I'd say this as well. It is ironic that things are happening now after people have been crying for years to make it happen. The fact is that this is now a time when the chocolates and the roses are coming out after months of neglect. You know, when you're in a relationship and all of a sudden you decide you're getting out of this, you're tired of this foolishness and you're moving on. That's when, the woman or the man step up their game because now they're afraid that they will leave you. The Bahamian people have been neglected in Golden Isles. The roads have been terrible for years, and there have been multiple complaints. The ironic factor is that in the last electoral cycle, the government walked with the candidate. The candidate assured the people, made some promises, and apologized for the lackluster performance, and yet it persisted. Now, I have a question. Was it a lackluster performance, or was it the government who is now seemingly supporting Pickstock, holding the former member of parliament back, whereas he could not do anything, and now we're seeing it being done? It's unfortunate the Bahamian people have to suffer for this period of time until we have an electoral process in order to get stuff done. This reminds me when the Queen and or the Prince and his fiance or his wife came here, all the roads were being paved. Is that the only time we're going to take care of the Bahamian people, when it seems as if we're in the spotlight? It's a shame that we cannot take care of the basic necessities of our people, and then we're bragging about it as if we're doing the Bahamian people a favor. You're not doing me any favor when I ask you for good roads. You are demanded to provide me good roads because I'm paying taxes to ensure that the roads are good. When my son dropped in the car and blew 2 tires the other night, where was the government? When my daughter blew a tire just the other day, where was the government? On the same road in Golden Isles. And it's a shame, and I had that same problem a few years back, and it's a shame that this problem has persisted for so long.
Go ahead, Richard.
So, Shanique, Glenn is also a resident of Golden Isles.
Yes, he said so.
Just like me. So, Glenn is lobbying.
Just like who?
Just like me. I'm a registered voter in Golden Isles.
Oh, okay.
I'm in polling division number 7. I think Glenn is in 7 as well. Right, Glenn?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. So, see, he can't tell you where he live, but my point is, right, Golden Isles, work were being done in Golden Isles, if I stand to be corrected, as roads were being paved. I remember very well, I cussed out the former member of parliament, the late Vaughan Miller, reference to some things that he was not doing in that constituency, and then I see later those things were being done. Again, Pickstock is in Golden Isles. I believe he is doing some things in Golden Isles. If he did admit that those things are not to be addressed, or they were not being addressed, he's addressing it. It has to be done. Because guess what? If you vote for the other man, he can't help you. You got to vote for the man in government who can do something for you. Because the man in opposition can't help you.
We will pick up this discussion because Golden Isles, listen, that race is before us, and it's obviously going to be very interesting. We're going to see what else the residents want. When you all leave the former member, let's just talk about the way forward. Okay, let's look at that. What I'm saying is this:
building on the progress.
We have so much more to talk about and hear from the residents of Golden Isles on what they want done and what's necessary and who is best qualified to make that happen. Glenroy, we agree, yes? I said we agree, yes? Yes. Listen, before we go to the break, the Westminster system, this is one of our viewers, and I love being able to get some interaction. The Westminster system, going back to exactly what we talk about in terms of representation and constituencies and boundaries and all that. Listen, where we got it from. The Westminster model of government we inherited from the British has the primary function of an MP as a legislator. They go to the House of Assembly to make laws for the good governance of the country. They must understand how to review and contribute to the debate on the proposed legislation and how that contributes to nation building. So again, you know what I mean? So and it's quite right. That's the model of governance that we have, and we intend on getting rid of that very anytime soon. And so while we talk about boundary cuts and boundary commission and expanding constituencies, we must also be mindful of how we represent under the confines of the Westminster system. Beyond the Headlines is back right after this. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to shift gears and talk a bit of how this all got started. Talk about Westminster system, how this all got started.
My late husband, Tyrone Albury, had a passion for brewing beer at home. We found one of his recipes and we started on the stovetop with 1 gallon of beer. It was a hobby that turned into a passion project that turned completely out of control. We had to make a decision whether or not we were going to continue home brewing or open a brewery. So craft beer is basically brewing a very small batch of beer. Every individual batch of beer is going to be slightly different.
We're always trying to figure out what the next best beer is going to be.
Just the sheer amount of love and effort that goes into every brew. It's a science, really, to selecting the right grains and the hops, and then expanding on some of the normals.
Really, in the last couple of years, we've had a lot more of the locals that have found our location.
They realize that there is a fuller flavor beer out there, and we take pride in that. When we first started the concept of the brewery and we were looking for funding, it was the SBDC that we leaned on to help me push through at times when I wanted to give up, to tell me when I was making mistakes, and for that, I am grateful. So I would encourage all entrepreneurs, if you're looking for funding, mentorship, and encouragement to launch your new business idea, I would encourage you to contact the SBDC.
Are you ready to take the next step in growing your business? Check your eligibility for our guaranteed loan program at sbdcbahamas.com/GLP or call 461-7232 to learn more about how the SBDC can support your business.
Are you ready, Bahamas? Get up, get moving, and join us at IL Fit Fest. Saturday, November 15th at the University of the Bahamas Playing Field. From 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., we're talking a variety of fitness vendors, free health screenings, and $10,000 in giveaways. And for the kids, we have a kids zone. And entry is absolutely free. Don't miss the IL Fit Fest.
The race to 2026 is heating up, and the nation's voice is louder than ever. Here on Beyond the Headlines, we're checking the mood, the momentum, and the message of the people. I'm Shanique Miller. Each week, we're taking the temperature of the electorate to see what's really driving the nation. Who's connecting? Who's cooling off? What issues are heating up ahead of 2026? This is Temperature Check 2026, where journalism meets the nation's heartbeat.
Beyond the Headlines is now introducing powerful TV advertising opportunities made just for you. Choose our television ad package, 20 30-second ads for $2,000 or 20 60-second ads for $2,500 plus VAT. Prefer flexibility? Go a la carte. Just $150 for a 30-second ad or $200 for a 60-second ad. Step into the spotlight with our interview package. 1 15-minute interview for $500 or 4 for $15 per month. Or bring Beyond the Headlines directly to you with our live on location package, only $2,600 plus VAT. For more information, contact our sales agent at 242-466-6173.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you joined in. I'll tell you this, you all pull up a chair, have your high schooler, even your middle school student, pull up a chair as well, because this book, we're about to discuss it. It is really awesome. You know the comment I read going into the break about the Westminster system? Well, this here is so amazing. It has detailed how it all started, how we got into that system, how it's still the foundation of our governance right now, as we know in the Bahamas. And it's a wonderful book. Listen, this book, this here need to be in schools, history, right? It's written by Jeremy T. Sweeting. Jeremy Sweeting is from the Abacos in South Abaco. In fact, he has also been a member of he's a chief counselor for several years in Abaco and also a candidate in the upcoming general election. But in this instance, we're talking to Jeremy Sweeting, the author. Now, Jeremy, good evening to you. Welcome to Being on the Headlines. It's good to have you here. I know you had a book signing earlier, yes?
No, actually, it's on Saturday at Logos
okay.
in Harbor Bay Plaza.
Yeah,
yes.
But listen, this is, first of all, congratulations on this. This is no easy feat. I mean, when I saw and spoke with you about your book release, I never expected an encyclopedia. I didn't expect that.
And this is only the first volume, because this goes from 1729, when the House of Assembly was created with Governor Woodes Rogers, and it goes up until the end of the 19th century till 1900. Volume 2, which I'm in the middle of researching and writing, will pick up in 1901, and it'll go to present day.
So you have been a history buff.
Yeah, this is my second book. I mean, my first book I wrote on my hometown in Abaco, the history of the island and genealogy, but this is the first political book on political history that I've done.
This is amazing because it's really quite timing. The timing is right? So let's talk about our political history. Before the break, I read a comment about the Westminster system that we've, I guess, adopted from the motherland, Great Britain. In 1729 is when we officially made that our form of governance.
Yes, prior to 1729, piracy had taken over the Bahamas, and the British Empire sent Governor Woodes Rogers here to clean up piracy and to establish order and governance. And it was actually during a second stint as governor, he was here twice, Woodes Rogers, during a second stint is when he established the House of Assembly, which is the fourth oldest legislature in the Western Hemisphere.
Our House of Assembly?
Yes.
They're so amazing. I did one time, we had something historic going on, and I talked about the city of Nassau and how historic that is, and that we weren't a city until we got the state church. Right. And that again goes back perhaps almost around this time, not quite as old, but it just we are quite established to enrich in history. We just need to value it and begin to really kind of, I guess, make that work for us. So let's talk about how that parliament looked at that time. At that time in 1729, and of course throughout the years as you will go and take us to 1780 and all that, only New Providence, Eleuthera, and Harbor Island had members of parliament? Or were they called members of parliament?
Yeah, it was called the General Assembly, and it was later restyled as the House of Assembly. But yes, you're correct, because at the time, only New Providence, Eleuthera, Harbor Island were populated. The rest of the out islands, for the most part, were largely uninhabited, so they didn't have representation. It wouldn't be until the Loyalists came in the 1780s, after the American War of Independence, that the Loyalists came to the Bahamas, populated a lot of the family islands, Abaco, Andros, Cat Island, Exuma, and then the House was reconstituted to include those family islands in the 1785 election.
This is awesome. So let's talk about, you heard a minute ago as you were sitting watching the Hot Topics, we saw the BCP is saying, listen, enough constituencies already. I would have thought around this time there was a handful of seats. There were 24 already at that time.
Yeah.
24 seats. Tell us how that looked. Where were these seats and how did that shape up?
Well, the breakdown of that, the town of Nassau had 8 seats. And the Eastern District in New Providence had 4 seats. The Western District in New Providence had 4 seats. Eleuthera had 4, and Harbor Island had 4.
Mm-hmm. Harbour Island just seemed to be so. Now I heard Eleuthera is prominent. Was it one time where the Parliament was? Like, did they move it,
Yes,
relocate
yeah.
it there?
Yeah, originally that's where it was under proprietary government when the Lord Proprietors prior to Woodes Rogers coming, you know. But that Parliament did not stand the test of time. It wasn't until this Parliament, 1729, that it continued.
You also discuss in this book who was allowed to vote or who qualified to vote.
Right,
Maybe is a
and
better
that's
way to
part
put
of
it.
the premise of the book, because the journey of Bahamian democracy, because very sadly, and I just want to reference this here, it was a limited franchise, you know, and very sadly, during that period, you know, not everybody was included. You know, persons of color wasn't allowed to vote or to stand in for election. Women was not. And then persons who did not.
And that's women regardless of what race.
Yeah, regardless of what race. And then also persons who did not meet the land qualification. If you didn't have a land valued worth £50 or more, which £50 back in 1729 was a lot of money, then, so if you were a poor person, you couldn't also stand for election to the House Assembly or vote. So the franchise was very limited. But as time marched on, the walls of discrimination kept coming down. In the 1830s, persons of color were allowed to vote and be elected to the Assembly. And it goes all the way up to where women were the last to be accepted into the franchise in 1962, as we know.
You mean from the 1830s
Yes.
when black people could have voted,
Yes.
all the way to the 1960s is when
Before
women
yes.
were allowed. And
then, of course, in 1982, we had our first
women elected.
Yes, Janet Bostwick with the Free National Movement in 1982.
You have this all detailed here.
Well, the first up until the late 19th century, almost to 1900.
Right. This is an incredible book. Let's just talk about a controversial execution that you have mentioned in this book. I imagine that must have been the first one.
Yes, that actually took place in Florida, which was under the Spanish at that time. There was the Seminole War that was going on, a fight between the Americans and the Seminole Indians. And what happened was Andrew Jackson, who was the general of the American Army at the time, he invaded Spanish Florida without congressional approval. And when he invaded Spanish Florida, he caught two British subjects. One was a Scotsman and one was a Bahamian by the name of Robert Christie Ambrista. And he believed that Robert Christie Ambrista, who was the son of a parliamentarian, James Ambrista, a very prominent person back in that period. This was in 1818, I think, 1817, 1818. And then they caught him and they had a court-martial trial, and he was found guilty, and he was put before a firing squad, which caused a lot of international upheaval. You know, of course, the heartbroken father felt like it was...
And Parliament and Bahamian official.
Yeah, well, he was the son of a Bahamian official.
No, but I'm saying the father, heartbroken, and
Yeah.
an official in the Bahamas,
Right.
but yet his son is caught up in this.
Right, you know, and you know, it cost, you know, a big congressional investigation in the United States. They had a big debate in Congress over this. This is all detailed in the book briefly. And then even in the House of Commons and the House of Lords in Great Britain, they had already went through the War of Independence with America, the War of 1812. They even were debating, because of the same execution, whether to go into a third war, but they ended up, you know, not going to war in 1818 over this, but it was a very heated time. Yeah.
You also highlighted some personalities, some unique personalities in Bahamian history, some of the names we have heard again and again and again. Talk about some of them.
Well, one thing I'd like to mention too, I mean, just a couple things. William Henry Doyle, who was a member of the House back in the 1850s, and he also became president of the Legislative Council. He also became our Chief Justice, and then he was sent to Gibraltar to serve as their Chief Justice. So just to show you how where research will take you, I found out that they had a photograph of him as one of their former Chief Justices hanging in the Supreme Court of Gibraltar. So here I was one morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, because of the time distance, on the phone with the Supreme Court of Gibraltar. They were very interested in what I was doing with this, and within a couple days they emailed me a photograph of William Henry Doyle. And and another fact about him, he is the first Bahamian to receive a knighthood. He received it from Queen Victoria in, I think, 1873.
This really goes quite in depth about like our foundation and how our democracy came about.
And if I can, I know it's hardly enough time to cover this properly, but the disendowment issue was a big thing following the blockade running in the 1860s, which was another big period in the Bahamas, which is also covered. But the disendowment issue came about because the Anglican Church was funded by government. The clergy was paid by taxpayers. The church buildings were maintained and built as the Anglican Church expanded. Well, in the 1860s, late 1860s, Robert Henry Sawyer, who was a staunch Methodist, felt like this wasn't fair to other denominations. And what really brought it to a head was the Anglicans were in charge of the educational system. They also was in charge of the burial grounds. And if you were a Methodist, you could have the funeral at your own church, but when you went to get buried, the Anglican priest had to do the last rites in the public cemetery. Or if you was a Baptist, the same thing. So that brought it to a head. And the contentious 1868 election is what decided that. We had no political parties at the time, but it almost was a partisan, because you had the Anglicans who was grouped together during that campaign versus the Presbyterians and the Methodists that were a coalition, in that campaign. And the Methodists and the Presbyterians won a very narrow margin. As a matter of fact, the leader of that group, Robert Henry Sawyer, lost his seat, but they went to an election court, well, at that time, election disputes were decided by the House, not an election court. And of course, that sometimes led to partisan feelings, and he ended up winning when they went and scrutinized that that election, and he won by one vote. So the person that defeated him in the initial election ended up getting booted out. But that's a saga in itself, and
you have a number of interesting stories here. For example, the James Carmichael Smith sex scandal. You covered it all.
Yes.
Everything that sort of paved the way.
James Carmichael Smith, anybody who gets this book should really read on that. He's a very interesting person. James Carmichael Smith it was a James Carmichael Smith who was governor back in the 1830s during the time when slavery was abolished. But this James Carmichael Smith was a person of mixed race. His father was English, his mother was from Cat Island, a black Bahamian from Cat Island, and he was well educated. And he wasn't the first person of color elected, that was Stephen Dillett, but he was the first person of color, though, back in the 1880s and 1890s that spoke out against racial discrimination and the social issues of his time. And he ended up getting derailed by the powers that be through this sex scandal. And it's a very interesting story.
Quite interesting read. Listen, this is amazing. It is called The House of Assembly, The Journey of Bahamian Democracy, Volume 1 by Jeremy T. Sweeting. Tell us what time at Logos on Saturday, and listen, come out and buy your book, get it signed.
From 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Again, this is a rich book, and it's sort of like something to talk about and discuss and read and have as just a moment of our history, documented and well researched. Jeremy, thank you so much. Yes. Good to meet you. We've spoken via Zoom and interviews, but good to have you sitting here with me this evening. And congratulations on this wonderful book. I have a hardback.
Yeah.
Yes, hardback copy, guys. Get your hardback copy, by the way. Logos, once again, Logos this Saturday from
11 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That's right. Meet Jeremy there, have a chat with him, have your book signed, and enjoy a cup of coffee while you're at it. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for being here. Of course, thank you at the top of tonight's show, Tori Austin from the Livery Drivers Union Association. In the middle of the show, we had the Beyond the Headlines contributors, Richard Johnson, Ellington Ferguson, Glenroy Pratt, and of course, in this segment, Jeremy Sweeting. Thank you so much, Chief Counselor of Abaco, and of course, aspiring to more. Thank you very much once again, Jeremy. Thank you also for tuning in this evening. I certainly enjoyed having you along and look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening, everyone.